Sabrina Holt hurried through the parking lot, checking her watch for the 5th time. She was late and she hated being late. The invitation had said 4:01 p.m. and it was already 4:20. Her sensible navy dress clung to her in the summer heat, and her feet were already protesting the heels she rarely wore. "Of all days to hit traffic," she muttered, patting her short brown hair back into place. At 41, Sabrina had mastered the art of looking put together without much fuss. A touch of mascara, a dash of lipstick, and her mother's pearl earrings were her only concessions to glamour today. The Golden Crest Hotel loomed before her, its glass and marble facade gleaming in the afternoon sun. It was the fanciest venue in town, and exactly the kind of place her co-worker Melissa would choose for her wedding. Melissa never did anything small. Sabrina rushed toward the first set of double doors she saw, with a sign that read Magnolia Ballroom. She could hear no music, which was strange, but maybe they were between songs. Or maybe the ceremony was still going on, and she'd be able to slip into a back row unnoticed. She pushed through the doors and froze. The ballroom was beautiful, white flowers everywhere, crystal centerpieces catching the light, champagne glasses at every place setting. But it was empty. No, not completely empty. At the head table, a man in a tuxedo sat alone staring at a champagne flute, his face a mask of quiet devastation. Sabrina's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh," she gasped. "I'm so sorry. I must have the wrong room." The man looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed but startlingly blue against his tanned face. He was handsome in a weathered way, with salt and pepper hair and deep lines around his eyes that spoke of both laughter and worry. "Wait," he said, his voice raspy. "Please don't go." Sabrina hesitated, one hand still on the door handle. "I'm really sorry to intrude. I was looking for the Mitchell-Gomez wedding. That's in the Orchid Ballroom, other side of the hotel." He managed a small pained smile. This was supposed to be the Arden-Collins wedding, but he gestured to the empty room, the statement finishing itself. Sabrina nodded, feeling a rush of second-hand embarrassment and genuine sympathy. She should leave now. This wasn't her business. This poor man had clearly been stood up in the worst possible way, and the last thing he needed was a stranger gawking at his pain. "I'm very sorry," she said softly, backing toward the door. Nihi. Man stood up suddenly. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and despite his obvious distress, carried himself with dignity. "I'm Caleb," he said. "Caleb Arden." The name sounded vaguely familiar, but Sabrina couldn't place it. "Sabrina Holt," she replied automatically. Caleb walked around the table, his movements careful, as if he might shatter. "Sabrina," he repeated, as if testing the name. "Would you—" He stopped, seeming to realize the absurdity of what he was about to ask, but then he continued anyway. "Would you stay? Just for a little while?" "Stay," Sabrina echoed, confused. Caleb gestured to the table. "All this food, all these preparations, it seems a waste, doesn't it? And He swallowed hard. "I don't think I can bear to sit here alone right now." Sabrina glanced at her watch again. Melissa's wedding was probably well underway by now. Walking in late would only draw attention, make her the focus of whispers and stares. And this man, this stranger with sad eyes, was asking for simple human companionship in what had to be one of the worst moments of his life. "Okay," she heard herself say. "I'll stay. For a little while." Relief washed over Caleb's face. He pulled out a chair for her, not at the other end of the long table, but right next to his seat at the head. "Thank you," he said, and the raw gratitude in his voice made Sabrina's heart twist. As she sat down, a waiter appeared, looking uncertain. "Mr. Arden, should we begin serving?" Caleb looked at Sabrina, a question in his eyes. "I haven't had lunch," she admitted. Caleb turned to the waiter. "Yes, please serve, for two." The waiter nodded and disappeared, returning moments later with 2 plates of salad and a bottle of wine. "So," Sabrina said, after taking a small bite, searching for a safe topic, "do you live in town?" Caleb shook his head. "I live everywhere, and nowhere really. Hotels mostly." He must have seen her confusion because he added, "I own them. Hotels, I mean. This one, actually, and about 30 others across the country." "Oh," Sabrina suddenly placed his name. "Arden Hotels. I've seen the commercials." "That's right," he said, not sounding particularly proud. "My father started the company. I took over when he died 15 years ago." "That must keep you busy," Sabrina said, taking a sip of wine. "Too busy, according to Vanessa." A shadow crossed his face. "That's her name. The woman who was supposed to be here today." Sabrina didn't know what to say, so she just nodded. "She left a note," Caleb continued, his voice flat. "With her maid. Of honor. I can't be your wife. I never was meant for this world." "What does that even mean, this world? My world? The world of hotels and business?" Sabrina set down her fork. "I don't know," she said honestly, "but I'm sure it has more to do with her than with you." Caleb gave a bitter laugh. "That's what my sister said too, right before she left to handle the press. God forbid the ardency." Name get dragged through the mud. The waiter cleared their salad plates and brought out the main course, filet mignon with roasted vegetables. "What about you?" Caleb asked, clearly eager to change the subject. "What do you do, Sabrina Holt?" "Nothing as exciting as owning hotels," she said with a small smile. "I work at the library. I'm the children's program director." "That sounds important," Caleb said, sounding genuinely interested. "Creating little readers." "That's exactly it," Sabrina said, pleased by his understanding. "Helping kids fall in love with books early, it's everything." "What made you choose that career?" For the first time since entering the ballroom, Sabrina felt herself relax. "Books were my escape as a kid. My parents divorced when I was 7, and I bounced between their homes. Books were the only constant. Then later, after my husband died..." She stopped, surprised that she'd mentioned David so casually to a stranger. "I'm sorry," Caleb said, his eyes softening. "How long ago?" 5 years, Sabrina replied. "Cancer. It was quick, at least." She took a deep breath. "After he died, I went back to school, got my library science degree, started over." Caleb nodded slowly. "Starting over. That's brave." "Not as brave as asking a complete stranger to have dinner with you after being left at the altar," Sabrina pointed out. Caleb laughed then, a genuine laugh that transformed his face. "Touché." They fell into easy conversation after that. Caleb told her about growing up in hotels, never staying in one place for long. "My father believed in learning the business from the ground up. I've been a bellhop, a dishwasher, a concierge, a maintenance man, you name it." "No wonder you're successful," Sabrina said. "You know every part of the operation." "The business part is easy," Caleb admitted. "It's the personal part I keep messing up." He looked around the empty ballroom. "Obviously." "Hey," Sabrina said gently, "one person's bad decision doesn't define you." Their eyes met, and something passed between them, a current of understanding. "What's your favorite book?" Caleb asked suddenly. The question delighted Sabrina, and she launched into an impassioned defense of Jane Eyre, which led to a spirited debate about classic literature versus modern fiction. From there they moved to music. He loved jazz, she preferred folk. Travel, his was mostly business, hers mostly dreams. And food, they agreed that Thai takeout was the best, but only from the right place. They had just been served coffee and wedding cake. Caleb had hesitated, but then decided, might as well eat it, when Sabrina's phone chimed with a text. "Oh," she exclaimed, checking the message. "It's from Melissa, my co-worker whose wedding I was supposed to attend. She's wondering where I am." Reality came rushing back. She had spent nearly 2 hours with this stranger, eating his wedding dinner, while completely forgetting about the event she'd actually been invited to. "I should go," she said, setting down her napkin. "I'm so sorry about everything, but thank you for dinner. It was unexpected but lovely." Caleb stood as she did. "I should be thanking you. You saved me from a very dark few hours alone." His expression grew serious. "Sabrina, I don't usually do this, but could I get your number? Maybe we could have dinner again sometime. On purpose next time." Sabrina hesitated. She hadn't dated since David, hadn't wanted to. But there was something about Caleb Arden, his honesty, his vulnerability, the way he listened when she spoke. "I'd like that," she said finally, and they exchanged phones to input their numbers. As he walked her to the door, Caleb seemed reluctant to let her go. "Thank you again," he said, "for being in the wrong place at the right time." "Good luck, Caleb," Sabrina replied. "With everything." He nodded, and she saw the weight settling back on his shoulders as she turned to leave, the abandoned groom returning to his reality. Outside, the summer evening was warm and golden. Sabrina walked to her car, feeling off balance, as if the world had tilted slightly on its axis. She had missed her co-worker's wedding, but had somehow attended half of a stranger's non-wedding instead. As she drove home, she wondered if she would ever hear from Caleb Arden again, or if their strange encounter would remain just that. An unusual story, a moment of connection in a day of disappointments. She couldn't possibly have known that the next morning her doorbell would ring. That she would open it to find no one there, just a beautiful arrangement of wildflowers on her porch, or that the card would read, "The wrong hall, the right conversation. Dinner again? No tuxes required." Caleb, and she certainly couldn't, have known that saying yes to that invitation would change both their lives forever. Sabrina stared at the wildflowers on her porch. Unlike the pristine roses and lilies that had decorated the abandoned wedding, these were cheerful daisies, bright purple coneflowers, and delicate Queen Anne's lace, the kind that grew in meadows, not fancy florist shops. She carried them inside, smiling as she read the card again. The wrong hall, the right conversation. Such a simple way to describe their strange meeting. Her phone rang, startling her. It was Melissa from work. "Sabrina Holt. Where were you yesterday? I saved you a seat, and everything." "I'm so sorry," Sabrina said, cradling the phone against her shoulder as she looked for a vase. "I got turned around at the hotel and ended up in the wrong ballroom. By the time I realized my mistake, it felt too awkward to walk in late." "Well, you missed a beautiful ceremony," Melissa said, "but more importantly, you missed meeting Richard's cousin. He's divorced, has a good job, and I think you two would hit it off." Sabrina rolled her eyes. Ever since David died, her friends had been trying to set her up. "Actually, I may have met someone on my own." "What? Who? When?" Melissa's voice rose with each question. "It's complicated," Sabrina replied, not ready to explain the bizarre circumstances. "And very new. I don't know if it's anything yet." "Well, keep me posted. I want details." After hanging up, Sabrina picked up the card again, running her finger over Caleb's name. She should call him, thank him for the flowers. But what would she say after that? Yesterday had been a unique situation. A man in crisis, a woman in the right place at the right time. Without the drama of his abandoned wedding, would they have anything to talk about? Before she could overthink it further, her phone buzzed. With a text. "Did the flowers arrive? I wasn't sure if this was your address. I got it from your driver's license photo." Sabrina's eyebrows shot up. He'd looked at her license? When? Then she remembered. When they exchanged phones to input their numbers, he must have checked her ID in her phone case. "They did arrive. They're beautiful, thank you," she texted back, then added, "Pretty sneaky with the address." 3 dots appeared as he typed. "Sorry, too much. I realize now how that might seem." Sabrina smiled. "Just unexpected. But then everything. About meeting you was unexpected. About dinner. Are you free tomorrow night? I know a place that makes the worst takeout in the city, according to you." She laughed out loud. During their conversation at the wedding, she'd mentioned a terrible Thai restaurant near her house. Terrible food for a second date? Bold choice. She texted back, surprised at how easily the word date had slipped out. His response came quickly. "I was thinking we start with terrible and everything after will seem amazing by comparison." Sabrina found herself grinning at her phone like a teenager. "Smart strategy, 7 down. Perfect, I'll pick you up. No fancy clothes required." For the rest of the weekend, Sabrina tried to keep her expectations low. Caleb had just been left at the altar. He was vulnerable, maybe even rebounding. This dinner could just be his way of saying thank you for her kindness during a difficult moment. But when Sunday evening arrived and her doorbell rang, all rational thoughts fled. Caleb stood on her porch wearing jeans and a blue button-down shirt that made his eyes seem even more vivid. He was holding another bunch of wildflowers. "I wasn't sure if you'd kept the others," he explained, looking slightly embarrassed. "They're in my kitchen," she replied, accepting the new bouquet. "Come in while I put these in water." Caleb followed her inside, glancing around at the modest living room with its overflowing bookshelves and comfortable furniture. "Nice place," he said. "It feels lived in, like a real home." There was something wistful in his voice that made Sabrina wonder again about his comment that he'd grown up in hotels. "Thanks," she said. "It's nothing fancy, but it's mine." As they drove to the restaurant, Sabrina noticed Caleb seemed different, more relaxed but also more focused. Yesterday he'd been in shock. Today, he was present. "So," she ventured, "how are you doing?" "Really?" Caleb sighed, keeping his eyes on the road. "Yesterday was brutal. Press calls, family damage control, returning gifts." He shook his head. "But you know what's strange? Under all the embarrassment and logistics, I don't feel as devastated as I probably should." "What do you mean?" He pulled into a parking space and turned to face her. "I think I was marrying Vanessa for all the wrong reasons. She fit the image, beautiful, well-connected, the kind of woman who looks good in hotel PR photos." He winced at his own shallow description. "That sounds terrible." "It sounds honest," Sabrina countered. "My sister Diana kept saying Vanessa was perfect for the Arden brand. I should have realized then that a marriage shouldn't have a brand." He shook his head. "Anyway, enough about my disaster. Tell me more about your work at the library." Inside the restaurant, they claimed a small booth in the corner. True to Caleb's word, the food was mediocre at best, but they were having too much fun to care. Sabrina told him about her latest children's program, a reading initiative where kids earned points for books completed. "The only problem is prizes," she explained between bites of subpar pad thai. "Our budget is tiny, so the rewards aren't very exciting." "What if I helped?" Caleb offered. "Arden Hotels could sponsor the program. We could offer family pool passes for the winning kids, maybe even a few overnight stays for the top readers." Sabrina's eyes widened. "Are you serious? That would be amazing." "Absolutely. It's good community relations and it promotes literacy. Win-win." His easy generosity touched her. This wasn't a man showing off his wealth. This was someone who saw a need and filled it simply because he could. After dinner, they walked around the neighborhood park, the summer night warm around them. Sabrina found herself telling Caleb about David, how they'd met in college, how his illness had been diagnosed too late, how empty the house had felt after he was gone. "The worst part was the silence," she admitted. "We used to talk constantly, about everything, important stuff, silly stuff. When he was gone, I would catch myself saying things out loud just to hear a voice in the house." Caleb nodded. "I understand. Loneliness," he said quietly. "Hotels are full of people, but it's the most isolating environment you can imagine. Everyone's just passing through." When they reached a bench, he gestured for them to sit. "Can I tell you something strange?" He asked. Sabrina nodded. "Yesterday, when you walked into that ballroom before I even knew who you were or why you were there, I felt relieved." He looked at her, his expression vulnerable. "Like, oh, good, she's here," which makes no sense. Sabrina's heart skipped. "That is strange," she agreed softly. "I don't believe in fate or any of that," Caleb continued, "but I can't shake the feeling that you were supposed to walk through that door." Before Sabrina could respond, Caleb's phone rang. He glanced at it and frowned. "It's my sister. I'm sorry, I should take this. She wouldn't call this late unless it was important." He walked a few steps away to answer. Sabrina couldn't hear his words, but his body language changed instantly, shoulders tensing, free hand moving in sharp gestures. When he returned, his expression was stormy. "Everything okay?" Sabrina asked. "Not exactly. Apparently Vanessa gave an exclusive interview to Style and Society magazine. According to Diana, it's a character assassination. Her words, not mine." He ran a hand through his hair. "The issue hits newsstands tomorrow." "What do you think she said?" "Who knows? That I'm cold, workaholic, emotionally unavailable. Pick your breakup cliché." He tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm sorry." This isn't exactly second date material. Sabrina reached for his hand. Hey, I knew what I was getting into. Man left at altar, remember? That comes with some baggage. His fingers wrapped around hers, warm and solid. Thank you for making this easier, he said. Walking back to the car, they remained hand in hand. The gesture felt both new and familiar, like trying on a sweater you'd forgotten you owned, and discovering it still fit perfectly. At Sabrina's house, Caleb walked her to the door. Despite the interruption, I had a great time, he said. Can I see you again? I'd like that, Sabrina replied, but maybe we should wait until after this magazine thing blows over. Give you some space to deal with the fallout? Caleb shook his head firmly. I've spent my whole life putting business first, image first, not this time. He stepped closer. I want to see you again, soon. The intensity in his voice made Sabrina's breath catch. Okay, she whispered. Caleb leaned down, his intention clear. Sabrina tilted her face up, meeting him halfway. The kiss was gentle, brief, but filled with promise. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. Good night, Sabrina Holt, Caleb said. Wrong hall, right conversation, perfect ending. After he left, Sabrina leaned against her front door, touching her lips. She felt light, almost giddy, but also nervous. This was happening so fast. Was she ready? Was he? And what would tomorrow's magazine article reveal? The next morning, Sabrina stopped at a newsstand on her way to work and picked up a copy of Style and Society. Vanessa Collins' beautiful face stared from the cover, alongside the headline, Jilted Bride Tells All Why I Left Hotel Ere Caleb Arden at the Altar. Sabrina's stomach knotted as she flipped to the article. The photos showed Vanessa, looking tearful but gorgeous in designer clothes, posed dramatically in what appeared to be a luxury apartment. The pull quotes along the margins made Sabrina's heart sink. He told me I was an investment. The hotels will always come first. I couldn't live in his cold, perfect world. Just as she began to read the full text, her phone buzzed with a text from Caleb. Have you seen it? It's worse than I expected. Can you meet for lunch? I need to talk to you. Sabrina hesitated, the magazine heavy in her hands. Whatever was happening between them was new, fragile. Did she really want to be pulled into this public drama? But then she remembered his face in that empty ballroom, the genuine connection they'd formed, the feeling of his hand in hers. She typed back, 2:30, the cafe next to the library. I'll be there. As she walked into work, magazine tucked under her arm, Sabrina couldn't shake the feeling that lunch would either be the real beginning of something special or the abrupt end of a brief, beautiful mistake. The library's front. Desk was buzzing with activity when she arrived. Her assistant Jenny waved her over urgently. Sabrina, you won't believe who called this morning. The Arden Hotel Group. They want to sponsor our summer reading program. They mentioned pool passes, even overnight stays for the top readers. Jenny's eyes were wide with excitement. How did this happen? I thought they only worked with big charities. Sabrina felt her cheeks flush. That's wonderful news, she managed, avoiding Jenny's questioning gaze. The woman I spoke with, Diana something, said her brother specifically requested the partnership. Do you know him or something? Before Sabrina could answer, the library director appeared. Sabrina, my office, please. Now. His tone made her stomach drop. She followed him, wondering what could possibly be wrong. Had Caleb's sponsorship offer somehow crossed an ethical line? The director closed the door and turned to face her. Explain this, he said, tossing a copy of Style and Society on his desk, the same magazine now in her bag. Sir? He jabbed a finger at a paragraph in the article. Right here, where Ms. Collins mentions a plain, middle-aged librarian who Caleb Arden was suspiciously quick to connect with, immediately after being left at the altar. He crossed his arms. Is she talking about you, Sabrina? Sabrina felt the blood drain from her face. She hadn't gotten far enough in the article to see that part. The library board is very concerned about the potential negative publicity, the director continued. We can't have our children's program director involved in some sort of rebound scandal with a jilted billionaire. It's not like that, Sabrina protested. We just had dinner. Twice. And now he's suddenly sponsoring our reading program. The director's eyebrows rose. You can see how this looks. Sabrina felt anger rising through her shock. How it looks? It looks like a successful businessman is supporting childhood literacy. What exactly is the problem? The problem is perception, Sabrina. And right now the perception is that you're somehow involved in a messy, high-profile breakup. As the director continued to lecture her about the library's reputation, Sabrina's thoughts raced. Was this what being in Caleb's world meant? Public scrutiny, accusations, having to defend private moments. By the time she left the office, it was almost noon. She retrieved her phone to find 3 missed calls from Caleb and a new text. Sabrina, I'm so sorry about the article. Diana is contacting our lawyers. Please call me when you can. She stared at her phone at a crossroads. She could call him back, meet him for lunch, try to navigate this unexpected storm together. Or she could step away now before she got in, any deeper. Her finger hovered over his name as the library clock chimed 12:30. Sabrina took a deep breath and pressed Caleb's name. He answered on the first ring. Sabrina, he said, relief evident in his voice. I'm so sorry about all this. I just read the article, she replied, walking toward the staff room for privacy. Or part of it anyway. My boss called me into his office. Apparently, being the plain middle-aged librarian is causing problems for the library's image. Caleb swore under his breath. That's completely unacceptable. I'll have Diana call your director immediately to smooth things over. No, Sabrina said firmly. Please don't, that will only make it worse. She rubbed her forehead, feeling a headache coming on. Caleb, I'm not sure about lunch today. I need some time to think. There was a pause. I understand, he said finally. But Sabrina, please know that none of what Vanessa said is true. I never called you plain, and I certainly didn't plan to meet you that day. I know that, she assured him. It's just, this is a lot. 2 days ago, I was just a librarian with a quiet life. Now I'm in a magazine. My job might be in jeopardy, and I'm not sure I'm ready for all this attention. Tell me what I can do, Caleb said. Anything. Sabrina closed her eyes. Just give me some space. A few days to sort things out. Of course, he agreed, though she could hear the disappointment in his voice. But can I at least clear up the situation with your library? Without involving you directly? Sabrina hesitated. What did you have in mind? A simple statement from Arden Hotels, clarifying that the sponsorship of the reading program was discussed before any personal relationship began, that it's part of our ongoing community outreach, no mention of you specifically. It was a reasonable solution, and if it helped save her job. Okay, she agreed, but please, nothing else for now. After hanging up, Sabrina spent the rest of the day trying to focus on work, but her thoughts kept drifting to Caleb. Had she overreacted? Was she throwing away something special because of one tabloid article? Or was this just the beginning of the chaos that would come with dating someone like Caleb Arden? That evening, as she pulled into her driveway, Sabrina noticed a sleek black car parked across the street. A woman in designer sunglasses stepped out, her blonde hair gleaming in the setting sun. Sabrina's stomach dropped. She'd seen that face. On the magazine cover this morning, Sabrina Holt, the woman called, walking toward her with confident strides. I'm Vanessa Collins. I think we should talk. Sabrina clutched her purse tighter. I don't think we have anything to discuss. Vanessa removed her sunglasses, revealing eyes rimmed with expensive makeup. I disagree. You're dating my fiancé. Ex-fiancé, Sabrina corrected. You left him. At the altar, remember? Vanessa waved her hand dismissively. A necessary dramatic gesture. Caleb needs to understand what he stands to lose. And what exactly would that be? Sabrina asked, unable to keep the edge from her voice. Everything. Vanessa moved closer. You don't know him, not really. Caleb's world isn't like yours. It's full of obligations, expectations, social contracts. Do you really think you fit into that? A children's librarian from the suburbs? Her words stung because they echoed Sabrina's own doubts. Look, Vanessa continued, her tone softening artificially. I'm not here to threaten you. I just want you to understand what you're getting into. Caleb and I have history. We have an understanding of each other's worlds. This little adventure with you is just his way of rebelling against his family's expectations. Sabrina found her voice. If you know him so well, why did you leave him on your wedding day? Something flashed in Vanessa's eyes. Anger, perhaps, or embarrassment. That's between Caleb and me, but trust me when I say this isn't over. I'll give him time to get this out of his system, and then we'll work things out. We always do. I think you should leave, Sabrina said, moving toward her front door. Vanessa slipped her sunglasses back on. Just one more thing. Did he mention the Milan property? The one we were supposed to oversee together after the honeymoon? Sabrina said nothing. Ask him about it, Vanessa suggested. Ask him who's going there now that I'm not in the picture. You might be surprised by the answer. With that parting shot, she returned to her car and drove away, leaving Sabrina shaken on her own front porch. Inside, Sabrina paced her living room, Vanessa's words repeating in her mind. Was she right? Was Sabrina just a temporary distraction for Caleb? And what was this about a Milan property? Her phone chimed with a text from Caleb. Everything okay? Diana spoke with your library director. The situation should be resolved. Sabrina stared at the message, unsure how to respond. Should she tell him about Vanessa's visit? Ask about Milan? Or was it better to maintain the distance she'd requested? Before she could decide, her doorbell rang. For a terrifying moment she thought Vanessa had returned, but when she peered through the peephole she saw Melissa from work. Surprise, Melissa said when Sabrina opened the door. I brought wine and gossip magazines. We need to talk about this mystery man of yours. Sabrina forced a smile. Come in. Melissa bustled inside, dropping a tote bag on the coffee table. So, I was at the grocery store checkout, flipping through Style and Society while waiting, when I see this article about Caleb Arden being left at the altar, and there's this mention of a librarian he connected with right after. She stopped, studying Sabrina's face. Oh my God, it's you, isn't it? You're the librarian. Sabrina sank onto the couch. It's a long story. I have all night, Melissa said, uncorking the wine. Start from the beginning. Over the next hour, Sabrina told Melissa everything. How she'd walked into the wrong ballroom, her dinner with Caleb, the flowers, their date, and now Vanessa's surprise visit. Wow, Melissa breathed when Sabrina finished. This is better than any of the setups I was planning for you. Sabrina, do you know who Caleb Arden is? His family is old money. Hotels, resorts, real estate. They're practically American royalty. That's the problem, Sabrina sighed. I'm not sure I belong in that world. Are you kidding? This is like a fairy tale. The handsome hotel heir and the librarian. Melissa's eyes were bright with excitement. And you say there's real chemistry between you two? Despite her worries, Sabrina couldn't help smiling. Yes, it's different than with David. Not better or worse, just different. Caleb listens in a way that makes me feel heard. And there's this sense of recognition between us, like we understand each other somehow. Then what's the problem? Besides the jealous ex, I mean. It's everything else. The public scrutiny, the lifestyle differences, the fact that we've only known each other for a few days. Sabrina shook her head. And Vanessa mentioned something about a property in Milan that has me worried. Melissa topped off their wine. Glasses. Only one way to find out. Call him. Sabrina hesitated. I told him I needed space. And has that helped you figure anything out? Not really, Sabrina admitted. Then call him, Melissa insisted. Ask about Milan, clear the air. What's the worst that could happen? After Melissa left, Sabrina sat in her quiet house, staring at her phone. It was nearly midnight, too late to call, but she could text. Still, awake, she typed, then hesitated before pressing send. Was she ready to re-engage? To risk her heart and her privacy for a man she barely knew? Her phone rang suddenly, making her jump. Caleb's name flashed on the screen. Sorry, he said when she answered. I know you asked for space, but I needed to warn you. My sister just called. Apparently Vanessa's been asking questions about you, getting your address. I'm worried she might try to contact you. She already did, Sabrina replied. She was waiting at my house when I got home from work. What? Caleb's voice sharpened. What did she say to you? A lot of things. That I don't belong in your world, that you'll get tired of me and go back to her. Sabrina took a deep breath. And she mentioned something about Milan. a property you were supposed to manage together. After the wedding, there was a pause and Sabrina's heart sank. Had she hit a nerve? The Milan Hotel, Caleb finally said. Yes, it's our newest acquisition. Vanessa and I were going to oversee the renovation after the honeymoon, he sighed. My sister Diana is handling it now. Is that what Vanessa was implying? That Diana and I... He trailed off, sounding disgusted. Diana is my sister, for God's... Sank. Relief flooded Sabrina. I didn't know what to think. Vanessa is trying to create doubts, Caleb said. It's what she does. Divides people, makes them question each other. I've seen her do it in business negotiations. Why would she bother? With me? Sabrina asked. If I'm really just a rebound, why not wait it out? Because you're not a rebound, Caleb said quietly. And I think she knows that. The words hung between them, full of meaning. Sabrina, Caleb continued, I know we only met a few days ago. I know this is all happening fast, but there's something real here, isn't there? Something worth exploring despite the complications. Before she could answer, Sabrina heard a strange noise outside, like breaking glass. Hold on, she said, moving to her front window. I think something's happening outside. She peeked through the curtains and gasped. Her car's windshield was shattered, and a dark figure was running toward a waiting vehicle. Someone just smashed my car window, she exclaimed. They're driving. Away now. I'm calling the police, Caleb said, his voice tight with anger. And then I'm coming over, no arguments. Pack a bag, you're not staying there tonight. Caleb, I don't know. Sabrina, please. If this is Vanessa's doing, she's escalated. From threats to property damage. I'm not taking chances with your safety. While waiting for the police, Sabrina packed an overnight bag, her hands shaking. This was exactly what she'd feared, chaos entering her orderly life. But as she zipped the bag closed, she realized something. She wasn't just afraid. She was angry. Whoever had damaged her car, Vanessa or someone else, was trying to intimidate her, to chase her away from Caleb. Why should she let them succeed? The police arrived first, taking photos and a statement. They were just finishing when Caleb's car pulled up. He rushed to Sabrina's side, eyes scanning her for any sign of harm. Are you okay? He asked, voice rough with concern. I'm fine, she assured him. Just a broken window. After the police left, promising to patrol the area throughout the night, Caleb turned to Sabrina. My offer stands. I have a guest suite at my penthouse, or I can get you a hotel room if you'd prefer. Sabrina considered her options. Staying home felt unsafe now. Going to Caleb's place would be crossing a line, moving their relationship forward in a significant way. A hotel room would be safer emotionally, but lonely. Your place, she decided, but just for tonight. The relief on his face was evident. Thank you for trusting me. The drive to downtown was quiet, both lost in their thoughts. Caleb's building was modern and gleaming, with a uniformed doorman who greeted him by name. The private elevator whisked them directly to the top floor. Caleb's penthouse was exactly what Sabrina had expected, spacious, elegant, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic city views. Yet there were unexpected touches. Bookshelves filled with worn paperbacks, a guitar in the corner, family photos on side tables. The guest suite is this way, Caleb said, leading her down a hallway. It has its own bathroom and a small sitting area. My room is at the opposite end of the apartment, so you'll have complete privacy. The suite was lovely, decorated in calming blues and grays. Sabrina set her bag on the bed, suddenly exhausted. The events of the day, the magazine article, the confrontation with Vanessa, the vandalism, had drained her completely. Thank you, she said simply. For everything. Caleb lingered in the doorway. Get some rest. We can talk in the morning. Alone. In the luxurious room, Sabrina changed into her pajamas and slipped between the softest sheets she'd ever felt. Despite her exhaustion, sleep eluded her. Her mind kept returning to Caleb's words. You're not a rebound, and I think she knows that. What did that mean? That his feelings for her were already stronger than a casual attraction? That he saw potential for something lasting between them? And more importantly, how did she feel? The answer came with surprising clarity as she drifted towards sleep. She was falling for Caleb Arden. despite the complications, despite the differences in their worlds, despite the danger. Or maybe because of all those things. Morning brought the scent of coffee and the sound of quiet conversation. Wrapping herself in the plush robe hanging in the bathroom, Sabrina followed the sounds to the kitchen. Caleb was there, speaking in low tones with a striking woman whose resemblance to him was unmistakable. The same blue eyes, the same strong jawline. His sister Diana, Sabrina guessed. Both looked up as she entered. Diana's expression was unreadable, her gaze assessing. "Sabrina," Caleb said warmly. "I hope we didn't wake you. This is my sister, Diana. Diana, this is Sabrina Holt." Diana extended a perfectly manicured hand. "Ms. Holt, I've heard a great deal about you." "Likewise," Sabrina replied, suddenly conscious of her sleep-rumpled appearance next to Diana's polished perfection. "Diana has some news about last night's incident," Caleb said, handing Sabrina a mug of coffee. "The police called this morning," Diana explained. "They caught the vandal on a neighbor's security camera. It wasn't Vanessa herself, but a young man who works as her assistant. He's been arrested." "Thank goodness," Sabrina breathed. "Unfortunately, this complicates things," Diana continued. "The press has gotten wind of the story. There are already reporters asking questions about why Caleb Arden's new girlfriend needed police protection less than a week after his failed wedding." Sabrina nearly choked on her coffee. "Girlfriend? Is that what they're saying?" "Among other things," Diana replied dryly. "Which brings me to why I'm here. We need to discuss strategy." "Strategy?" Sabrina echoed. Diana's perfectly lined eyes narrowed slightly. "Yes. How we're going to handle the press, social media, public appearances, whether you two are going to confirm the relationship or maintain privacy, what your role will be in upcoming Arden events." "Diana," Caleb interrupted, his tone warning. "We haven't even had that conversation ourselves yet." "Well, you'd better have it soon," Diana replied, checking her watch. "Because I have reporters demanding statements, and the Arden Foundation Gala is in 3 days. People will expect to see you there, Caleb, and they'll be watching to see who's on your arm." She gathered her designer handbag. "I'll give you 2. Some privacy. But Caleb, I need answers by noon." After Diana left, an awkward silence fell between them. "I'm sorry about that," Caleb said finally. "Diana handles all our family's PR. She can be intense." "Is she right?" Sabrina asked. "About the reporters and everything?" Caleb ran a hand through his hair. "Probably. The Arden name attracts attention, especially when there's drama involved." He met her eyes directly. "Sabrina, I need to be honest with you. This isn't going to fade away quickly. Dating me means dealing with this kind of scrutiny. Not all the time, but especially at first, and during public events." Sabrina wrapped her hands around her coffee mug, drawing comfort from its warmth. "And the gala," she mentioned. "The annual Arden Foundation Gala. It raises money for homeless shelters across the country." His expression softened. "I'd love for you to come with me, but I completely understand if it's too much too soon." Sabrina took a deep breath. "Can I ask you something first? Anything. What are we doing, Caleb? What is this between us? Because your sister called me your girlfriend, and we haven't even discussed what we are to each other." Caleb moved closer, taking her hands in his. "What do you want us to be?" "I'm not sure," she admitted. "Everything's happening so fast, but I know I feel something for you that I haven't felt in a very long time. Something that scares me and excites me at the same time." "I feel it too," Caleb said, his voice gentle. "From the moment you walked into that empty ballroom, something changed for me. Call it chemistry, call it connection. I don't want to lose it before we've had a chance to see what it could become." He lifted one hand to cup her cheek. "Come to the gala with me, not as my shield against gossip or as some statement to Vanessa, but because I want you there, because I want to show you a part of my world, the good part that helps people." Sabrina leaned into his touch, the decision crystallizing in her mind. "Okay," she said, "I'll come. But I don't have anything to wear to something like that." Caleb grinned, relief evident in his expression. "I think we can solve that problem." As he pulled her into an embrace, Sabrina realized she was stepping into a new chapter of her life, one with unfamiliar rules and unexpected dangers, but also filled with possibilities she'd never imagined. And for the first time in years, the future seemed bright with promise. What she couldn't know was that across town, Vanessa Collins was meeting with her lawyer, her expression cold as she explained exactly what she wanted. Not just revenge, but complete destruction of the unexpected romance that had derailed her carefully laid plans, and she was prepared to use every weapon in her arsenal to get it. The next 3 days passed in a whirlwind. Sabrina returned to work, where the damage control from Caleb's sister had indeed smoothed things over. The library director was suddenly eager to discuss the exciting new partnership with Arden Hotels, treating Sabrina with newfound respect. "You should have told me you knew Caleb Arden personally," he said, as if they were old friends. "Such a generous donation to our reading program." Sabrina nodded politely, trying not to roll her eyes. She'd spent each night at her own house with a security guard Caleb had insisted on stationing outside. During the days they spoke by phone, his warm voice becoming a comforting constant in her life. On the afternoon of the gala, Sabrina came home to find a large white box on her porch, with a note, "Something to wear tonight. The car will pick you up at 7. Clap. Inside was the most beautiful dress Sabrina had ever seen, a deep blue evening gown with a modest neckline and delicate beading that caught the light. It was elegant without being flashy, sophisticated, without being revealing. Somehow Caleb had chosen something that perfectly suited her taste. Accompanying the dress were simple silver heels and a clutch purse. No jewelry, she noticed, perhaps remembering she'd mentioned once that she always wore her mother's pearls for special occasions. At precisely 7 a sleek black car pulled up. The driver, an older gentleman with kind eyes, introduced himself. "As Thomas. Mr. Arden sends his apologies, Ms. Holt. He was called to an emergency meeting at the gala venue and asked me to escort you safely." As they drove downtown, Sabrina's nerves began to build. This would be her first public appearance with Caleb, and not just any appearance, but at a high-profile charity event with press and photographers. What if she embarrassed him? What if Vanessa was there? The car pulled up to a grand hotel where a red carpet led to the entrance. Photographers lined the walkway, flashbulbs popping as elegantly dressed guests posed and smiled. "Oh no," Sabrina whispered. "I have to walk through that?" Thomas gave her a reassuring smile. "Mr. Arden said to tell you he'll be waiting just inside. The doors. 20 steps, that's all." Taking a deep breath, Sabrina stepped out of the car. The cameras immediately turned her way and questions rang out. "Miss, are you Caleb Arden's date? What's your name? Are you and Caleb a couple?" She kept her head high, counting steps. 15, 16, 17. And then Caleb was there. Handsome in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, his smile warm as he took her hand. "You made it," he said, leading her inside. "And you look absolutely beautiful." "So do you," she replied, feeling some of her tension ease. "I mean, handsome. You look handsome." He laughed, keeping her hand firmly in his as they moved deeper into the venue. "Are you nervous?" "Terrified," she admitted. "I've never been to anything like this." "Just stay close to me," he said. Most of these people are more interested in their own reflection than in us. The ballroom was stunning, with crystal chandeliers and tables draped in white linen. At the entrance, a large banner proclaimed, "Arden Foundation Building Homes Changing Lives." Displays around the room showed photos of shelter renovations and families being housed. As they made their way through the crowd, Caleb was stopped, repeatedly by guests offering condolences about his cancelled wedding, curious glances sliding to Sabrina. He handled each interaction smoothly, introducing Sabrina simply as "my date, Sabrina Holt," without further explanation. Diana appeared, looking regal in a red gown. "There you are," she said to Caleb. "The program starts in 20 minutes. You're at the head table, of course." Her eyes flicked to Sabrina. "Both of you." "Is that a problem?" Caleb asked mildly. Diana's smile was tight. "Of course not. The press is very interested in your friendship. Just be prepared for questions." After she walked away, Sabrina squeezed Caleb's arm. "Your sister doesn't approve of me, does she?" "Diana doesn't approve of anything that might..." Generate negative press, Caleb replied, but she'll come around once she gets to know you. At the head table, Sabrina was seated between Caleb and an elderly gentleman who introduced himself as Walter Arden, Caleb's uncle. "So you're the librarian," Walter said, his eyes twinkling. "The one who walked into the wrong wedding." Sabrina blushed. "News travels fast in your family." "Only the interesting news," Walter chuckled. "And you, my dear, are the most interesting thing to happen to the Ardens in years." Before Sabrina could respond, a commotion near the entrance caught everyone's attention. Vanessa Collins had arrived, wearing a white gown that looked suspiciously bridal, her blonde hair swept up elegantly. She paused at the doorway, ensuring all eyes were on her before making her entrance. Caleb tensed beside Sabrina. "I didn't know she'd be here," he said quietly. "She wasn't on the guest list." Sabrina watched as Vanessa worked the room, stopping at various tables, laughing and touching arms familiarly. She was clearly moving in a deliberate pattern, closer and closer to the head table. "She's coming this way," Sabrina murmured. Caleb took her hand. "Just follow my lead." When Vanessa finally reached them, her smile was dazzling and completely false. "Caleb, darling, what a lovely event." She turned to Sabrina, eyes cold despite her smile. "And Ms. Holt, how nice to see you again. That's a beautiful dress. Off the rack, is it?" Before Sabrina could respond, Walter Arden spoke up. "Vanessa, I don't believe you were invited this evening." "Oh, Walter, don't be silly. I've attended the Arden Gala for the past 3 years. Besides, I'm practically family." "Not from where I'm sitting," Walter replied bluntly. Vanessa's smile faltered briefly before returning. "Caleb, could I speak with you privately? Just for a moment? It's about the Milan project." Caleb's jaw tightened. "Anything you need to say, you can say here." "It's rather sensitive," Vanessa insisted, placing a hand on his arm. Sabrina felt a familiar twist of doubt. Despite everything, these two had history, connections, shared work. Was she foolish to think she could compete with that? "Excuse me," she said, standing abruptly. "I need to find the ladies' room." She walked away quickly, ignoring Caleb calling her name. In the elegant bathroom, Sabrina leaned against the marble counter, trying to steady her breathing. What was she doing here? This wasn't her world. These weren't her people. The door opened, and Diana entered. She checked the stalls to ensure. They were alone, then turned to Sabrina. "Are you all right?" she asked, her tone softer than Sabrina had yet heard it. "I'm fine," Sabrina replied automatically. "Just needed a moment." Diana studied her reflection in the mirror, applying fresh lipstick. "You know, when Caleb told me about you, I was skeptical. A librarian he just met, right after being jilted?" It screamed rebound. Sabrina remained silent, unsure where this was going. "But then I saw you together," Diana continued. "The way he looks at you, the way he smiles, really smiles, for the first time in years." She turned to face Sabrina directly. "My brother was going to marry Vanessa because she fit a role, not because he loved her. I think deep down he knew that. It's why he's not devastated by what happened." "Why are you telling me this?" Sabrina asked. "Because I want you to know that you belong here, Sabrina. Not because of that dress or this event, but because you make my brother happy." Diana's expression softened further. "Don't let Vanessa make you doubt that." Sabrina was touched by this unexpected support. "Thank you." Diana straightened her shoulders, her professional mask slipping back into place. "Now, let's get back out there. The program's about to start, and Caleb's giving the opening remarks." When they returned to the ballroom, Vanessa was gone from the head table. Caleb stood immediately when he saw Sabrina, relief evident on his face. "I'm sorry," he said as she sat down. "I should have warned you she might be here." "It's okay," Sabrina replied, feeling steadier. "What did she want?" "To cause trouble," Caleb said simply. "But it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're here with me." The lights dimmed, and a spotlight illuminated the podium. Diana took the stage, welcoming everyone to the annual Arden Foundation Gala. "And now," she announced, "it is my pleasure to introduce our chairman, my brother Caleb Arden." Caleb squeezed Sabrina's hand before standing. As he walked to the podium, the crowd applauded warmly. "Thank you all for coming tonight," he began. "The Arden Foundation has a simple mission: to provide safe, dignified housing for those in need. Last year, your generosity helped us renovate 12 shelters across the country and build 50 new transitional housing units. As he continued, Sabrina watched with growing admiration. This was a side of Caleb she hadn't seen before. Passionate, articulate, deeply committed to helping others. The business of hotels might have been his inheritance, but this foundation clearly had his heart. This year, Caleb was saying, we're expanding our focus to include literacy programs in the shelters we support. Sabrina sat up straighter. This was news to her. I've recently had the privilege of meeting someone who reminded me how transformative books can be, especially for those going through difficult transitions. His eyes found Sabrina in the crowd. Reading offers not just escape but empowerment, knowledge, hope. We're partnering with public libraries to bring resources directly to shelter residents, with a special emphasis on children's programs. The room burst into applause. Beside Sabrina, Walter leaned over. He didn't have that in his speech yesterday, he whispered. You've made quite an impression, my dear. After Caleb's speech, the fundraising began in earnest. Wealthy donors competed to outbid each other during the charity auction, with millions being raised for the foundation's work. During dessert, Sabrina excused herself to visit the powder room again. As she washed her hands, she heard familiar voices from inside one of the stalls. Vanessa and another woman. Did you deliver the envelope? Vanessa was asking. Yes, but I don't understand why we're doing this here tonight, the other woman replied. Couldn't it wait until after the gala? No, Vanessa said firmly. He humiliated me by bringing that woman here. Now he'll see what happens when you cross me. The board members need to know exactly what kind of man they're dealing with. The toilet flushed, and Sabrina quickly dried her hands, not wanting to be caught eavesdropping. But as she reached for the door, Vanessa emerged from the stall. Well, Vanessa said, her smile predatory. Lurking in bathrooms now, are we? I was just leaving, Sabrina replied, trying to step past her. Vanessa blocked her path. You know, you should enjoy your time with Caleb while it lasts. I give it another week, maybe 2, before he gets bored and comes back to someone who actually understands his world. Sabrina had had enough. You left him at the altar, Vanessa. If you truly loved him, you never would have done that. Love? Vanessa laughed. Oh, that's sweet. This isn't about love. It's about position, power, connections, things you know nothing about. Maybe not, Sabrina conceded. But I know Caleb, the real Caleb, not the one you tried to mold into your perfect society husband. Vanessa's expression hardened. You think you know him after what, a week? I've been part of his life for years. I know things about him that would shock you. Like what? Sabrina challenged, tired of Vanessa's vague threats. Like the real reason his first marriage ended, Vanessa said smugly. Did he tell you he was married before? No? I thought not. Sabrina felt a chill. Caleb had never mentioned a previous marriage. Ask him about Elizabeth, Vanessa suggested. Ask him why she left him after only 8 months. Then we'll see if you still think he's such a wonderful man. With that parting shot, Vanessa swept past her and out of the bathroom. Sabrina leaned against the counter, shaken. Was Vanessa telling the truth? Had Caleb been married before? And if so, why hadn't he mentioned it? When she returned to the table, Caleb was deep in conversation with several board members. He smiled when he saw her, but there was tension around his eyes. Everything okay? She asked quietly. Not exactly, he murmured. Someone's circulating some old financial records from my personal accounts, documents that were supposed to be private. The board members are concerned. Sabrina remembered Vanessa's words in the bathroom. The envelope, she whispered. What? Overheard Vanessa in the bathroom. She was talking about delivering an envelope tonight, something that would show the board what kind of man they're dealing with. Caleb's expression darkened. Of course. She would have had access to those records when we were engaged. He ran a hand through his hair. I need to address this immediately. What is it? Sabrina asked. What's in those records? Nothing illegal, Caleb assured her. Just personal. Payments I'd rather not have discussed publicly. He looked around the room. I need to find Diana. As he stood, Walter placed a hand on his arm. Is this about the Elizabeth situation? Caleb nodded grimly. Then, go, Walter said. I'll entertain your lovely date while you and Diana handle it. After Caleb left, Sabrina turned to Walter. Who's Elizabeth? The old man sighed. I suppose you should know if you and Caleb are going to have a future together. Elizabeth was Caleb's wife about 7 years ago. A brief, unhappy marriage that ended when she became pregnant with another man's child. Oh, Sabrina said, feeling both relieved and confused. That's terrible. But why would it be a problem now? Because Caleb has been sending her money a month since the divorce, Walter explained. Quite substantial amounts, not for the child, who turned out not to exist, just a ploy to end the marriage, but for Elizabeth herself. She threatened to go to the tabloids with invented stories about him if he didn't pay. He was being blackmailed. Sabrina was horrified. Caleb preferred to think of it as buying peace, Walter said with a sad smile. He's never wanted his personal life in the headlines. But now, if those financial records are being shown without context, it looks like he has something to hide, Sabrina finished. Or like he's still supporting an ex-wife while dating other women. Precisely. For the next hour, Sabrina made small talk with the other guests at the table, her mind whirling. She felt hurt that Caleb hadn't told her about his previous marriage, but also understood why he might want to keep such a painful episode private. When Caleb finally returned, his face was grim. I need to make an announcement, he said quietly to Sabrina. To get ahead of the rumors Vanessa is spreading, I'm sorry to put you in this position. It's okay, Sabrina assured him, placing her hand over his. Do what you need to do. Caleb nodded to Diana, who took the stage again. Ladies and gentlemen, my brother would like to address you once more before the evening concludes. Caleb walked to the podium, his posture straight and dignified despite the tension evident in his shoulders. I've recently been made aware that some personal financial records of mine are being circulated tonight, he began, his voice steady. Rather than let speculation run wild, I'd like to address this directly. The room fell completely silent. 7 years ago, I was briefly married to a woman named Elizabeth Crane. Our marriage ended when she was unfaithful. Following our divorce, I did make regular payments to her, which you'll see reflected in those records. Murmurs spread through the crowd. I made these payments not out of obligation, but because Elizabeth threatened to spread harmful lies about me and my family if I didn't. I chose what I thought was the path of least resistance. In retrospect, that was a mistake. Caleb's gaze found Sabrina. I've learned that sometimes facing the truth head-on is better than hiding from it. He took a deep breath. I'm sharing this tonight because someone is attempting to use these private matters to damage my reputation and, by extension, the work of this foundation. I won't let that happen. The Arden Foundation's mission is too important to be derailed by personal vendettas. The crowd erupted in applause, with several people rising to their feet. Sabrina saw Diana across the room, giving her brother a slight nod of approval. And now, Caleb continued when the applause died down, I have one last announcement. In addition to our new literacy initiative, I am personally donating an additional $1 million to expand our transitional housing program for families with children. The applause was thunderous this time. Through the crowd, Sabrina spotted Vanessa near the exit, her face a mask of fury. Their eyes met briefly before Vanessa turned and stormed out. When Caleb returned to the table, he looked drained but relieved. I'm sorry, he said to Sabrina, for not telling you about Elizabeth sooner and for dragging you into all this drama. You didn't drag me anywhere, she replied softly. I chose to be here, with you. Walter cleared his throat. I believe that's my cue to find another glass of champagne, he said with a wink, leaving. Them alone. Sabrina, Caleb began, taking her hands in his. These past 10 days have been the strangest, most unexpected time of my life. I was supposed to be on my honeymoon right now, not sitting here with you, but I couldn't be more grateful for how things turned out. Me too, she admitted. Though I could have done without the car vandalism and bathroom confrontations, he laughed. Fair point. His expression grew serious again. I know this is fast. I know we come from different worlds, but I've never felt this kind of connection with Anyone before? Not even Vanessa? Sabrina couldn't help asking. Especially not Vanessa, Caleb said firmly. What I had with her was convenient, expected. It's real. Unexpected and complicated, but real. Under the table, Sabrina felt something brush against her foot, a small velvet box that Caleb had slipped from his pocket. "What's this?" she asked, picking it up. "Open it," he encouraged. Inside was not a ring, as she had momentarily feared, but a delicate silver key. "It's to my house in Cape Cod," Caleb explained. "Not a hotel, not a property I manage, a real home. One that no one else has ever visited." He looked almost shy. "I'd like to take you there next weekend, just us. No press, no Vanessa, no drama. A chance to get to know each other better, away from all this." Sabrina closed her fingers around the key. "I'd like that." Caleb smiled, the tension leaving his face. "There's something else you should know," he said. "I've decided to take a step back from the day-to-day operations of Arden Hotels. Diana can handle things for a while. I want to focus on the foundation and on figuring out what actually makes me happy. And what does make you happy, Caleb?" "Arden?" Sabrina asked softly. He reached up to touch her cheek. "Right now, this, you, the possibility of us." As the gala wound down, they stayed at their table, talking quietly about everything and nothing, their childhoods, their favorite books, places they'd like to visit together. When most of the guests had departed, Caleb finally stood and offered Sabrina his arm. "Shall we go?" Outside, the night was clear and cool. As they waited for the car, Caleb pulled Sabrina close. "I never thanked you," he said. "For what?" "For walking into the wrong wedding that day. For staying when I asked you to. For seeing me, the real me, when I needed it most." Sabrina smiled up at him. "Maybe it wasn't the wrong wedding after all. Maybe it was exactly where I was supposed to be." Caleb lowered his head until his lips met hers in a kiss that felt like a promise of more days together, more conversations, more discoveries about each other. Of a future neither had imagined just 10 days ago. Thomas pulled up with the car, a discreet smile on his face as they broke apart. "Where to, sir?" he asked. Caleb looked at Sabrina, a question in his eyes. Her own house? His penthouse? Separate locations? "Your place," she decided, surprising herself with her certainty. "I think I'd like to stay a while." As the car pulled away from the curb, Sabrina looked back at the hotel. Through the glass doors, she could see Diana speaking with the event staff, ever the efficient manager. Walter was entertaining the last few guests with what appeared to be a humorous story. And there in the shadows near the valet stand was Vanessa, watching their departure with cold eyes. But for once, Sabrina felt no fear or doubt. Let Vanessa watch. Let the press speculate. Let the future unfold as it would. She had walked into the wrong wedding and found the right man. Everything else was just details. Caleb's hand found hers in the darkness of the car. "What are you thinking?" he asked. Sabrina smiled, remembering his words from that first strange meeting. "That maybe I wasn't meant for that world either," she said. "The one with perfect weddings and society pages. Maybe I was meant for something better. Maybe we both were," Caleb replied, lifting her hand to his lips. As they drove through the city toward whatever came next, Sabrina knew one thing with absolute certainty. Sometimes the wrong door leads exactly where you're supposed to be. And sometimes the guest who stayed becomes the one you never want to leave. The end.